I think, more of Fav's stuff than Fav killed in that battle. So and he's got like a hero level advantage. He's got like 6-2 versus Fav has got 5-1. In fact, his Death Knight's dead. He is... Let's see, he's going to creep out an expansion because I think in terms of just the number of units he has, he can't really do anything offensive at this point. But at this point in the game, the onus is on Sweet to do something offensive. Why? Because Fav has a Fiend army, and a Fiend army means that you have protection to chain morph a bunch of destroyers and absolutely screw any ghouls your opponent can throw at you. And just from all the web and stuff, the gargoyles aren't really able to effectively counter the destroyers. The other problem being, of course, Nova for the Gargs. So it's really on Sweet at this point to do something to kind of liquidate the army that he has, because the Fiends are really a much better choice in the late game. So that's why you see Sweet going on the offensive at this point. He's going to try and either creepjack Fav or catch him, or try and like pick off some of his buildings while they're on their way, or try and catch him expanding, things like that. You notice he sent a couple of ghoul scouts, which did find a mine of Fav's that was going up. Had he not caught this, he would have been very bad off. So, in those situations where the armies are fairly even and stalemated, neither opponent really has that strong of a desire to fight each other, because it's just, there's really not that much to be gained from it on either side. Those are the situations where you really need to be watching for your opponent setting up an expansion, because if they do manage to sneak one, that's going to be pretty much a game-winning advantage. As long as you catch them, though, it's not so bad, because undead expansions are, they're pretty fragile, so it's pretty easy to screw them over or cancel it or things like that. Let's see. Sweet's creeping at this point. I don't know that that's the best choice. Excuse me, it is a good choice on his part. Ideally, this is not the sort of thing that you want to do in this situation. Like I said, you've got Ghoulgarg that's going up against somebody that's massing up Fiends, so it's really on you. You've got to go in there and start screwing over some Fiends and doing some damage and stuff. Otherwise, he's going to build up that nasty late-game army that you can't get. And in fact, later on, once Sweet does kind of liquidate this army that he's got, he is going to switch to Fiends himself. So he basically goes in here, tries to get a few Akko kills, forces Fav to TP, which is nice because at least it interrupts Fav's creeping. That's one of the other problems that you have when your opponent has switched to Fiends, is that he's going to be able to creep probably a little bit faster than you. So he manages to get a couple of Acolyte kills, force Fav to TP, and TP out himself. That works in terms of slowing things down. Now, and I think his goal here was, the reason that he was creeping and kind of futzing around like that, really, I think, had most to do with the fact that he hadn't gotten himself up to 50 supply yet, just because Fav had screwed his economy over so badly. So that was really, a lot of what you saw up until this point was just kind of delay tactics by Sweet. And now that he actually does have his 50th supply army ready to go, and he's able to buy like heal scrolls and things to keep the ghouls alive for a bit longer, he's ready to fight. I don't know if he's aware that Fav has expanded yet. I think he knows. It's actually kind of hard to tell with the replays are kind of screwy. Like if you look at one person's point of view, it'll sometimes show buildings that they haven't really seen yet, especially if you've fast forwarded. But since we know the fight's coming, let's talk about kind of the micro techniques that are going to be used in this battle. Fortunately for Sweet, Fav is a little bit slow in getting his destroyers out here. But what Fav is generally going to want to do is pick off like a couple ghouls, fire off some damage with his Fiends, and then back them off, and hopefully get like a couple destroyers chain morphed and start letting all his area of effect damage screw the ghouls over. So he's going to shoot a little bit and then back off. Sweet, on the other hand, is going to sleep his opponent's Death Knight so that he can't coil the Fiend that he's focusing down. and he's basically just going to hope that the heal scrolls that he brought along with him are going to keep his ghouls alive enough that he can keep running in there and screwing over the fiends. You generally do have to manually target your ghouls to a fiend, because otherwise they'll end up hitting something like his Lich that you don't want him to hit. And basically your hope is that you can screw him over, like Sweet is doing pretty well, before those destroyers get chain morphed and before all the damage from Nova kills off all your ghouls. Basically, if you see a Nova go off on a ghoul on your ghoul army and it's like more than level 1, you've got to pop a heal scroll like right away. You know, don't delay on that. It's just don't do it before the Nova, just because he's almost focused down a couple of your ghouls with you know, with fiends or something like that. Wait till an area. The purpose of heal scrolls is to counter area of effect spells. So until those start going off, until you start taking like a lot of splash damage or area of effect, don't pop your heal scrolls. But as soon as you do, you have to do it pretty quickly, or all your ghouls are going to die. They die really freaking fast. Another thing to mention whenever you are in an undead mirror fight is that it's pretty easy for your opponent to like nuke and focus down one of your heroes. For this, especially when there's a lot of like flying units around, watch that upper left hand corner. You know how they have the little hero portraits? Well, you can see their health on there. In fact, you can even like cast coil and click on that portrait to coil the unit. So yeah, very important to keep an eye on your hero healths. If your opponent just thinks you're not paying attention, sometimes they will like focus down your Lich and stuff. And he dies pretty damn fast, so it's definitely something that you need to watch out for. Okay, I've mentioned that in the forums before, that I've heard players better than myself say that late game Undead Mirror is all about the destroyers. And we're going to see this kind of come in effect. Both players are bringing fiends as well, because that does kind of prevent enemy destroyers from escaping. Plus, you know, if you only have one slaughterhouse, you got to build something, or you're going to fall behind. So, but the thing is, and it ultimately amounts to the fact that destroyers can't be novid. So they just end up staying alive a lot longer. Once you get into a fiend destro battle, this is real important. You gotta kind of know the order in which to attack stuff. Do not go after your opponent's destroyers. It's very easy to think, okay, you know, I've got my fiends and stuff, and they're doing piercing damage, and destroyers have light armor, and I have them webbed right now. It's fallacy. Don't go after the freaking destroyers. For one thing, unless they have mana, they don't deal that much damage. If they do have mana, they're going to blow it off before you can kill them. And the problem is that your opponent can sit there and coil his destros